about industrial cinema. Why do we need Kostya for this? Kostya, please stand up. This is the neat laboratory of industrial cinema. Let's give him a round of applause. And he's also the CEO of the distribution company Reflection Films, Evgeny Super. Super Evgeny. Journalist, blogger, creator of the project Time Forward. Well, Alexey Nemov, whom I've always known. Here he is, Lesha Nemov, our director. I knew him as an excellent cameraman for almost all the films of Severozh Debezhev's latest ones. So why have you all gathered here? Because every film has a superstar, and our superstar, Dmitry Kalinin. The center of attention, the main character. The creator of the engineering and technology hub, about which we'll be watching a whole hour-long film after our discussion, will then... I'm going to share my pain now and throw this pain at our colleagues. In reality, the Soviet Union no longer exists. For about how long? 30. No, more. 34 years up to this year. But to this day, it's still the most filmed country in the world. That is, if we go to the Krasnogorsk archive of cinema and photo documents, we can find, for example, 2 films about a nuclear desalination plant, or about how an airplane was built, or about how, say, a hydroelectric power station was built. For the last 30 years, I have been making documentary films. For almost 30 years, we have been filming and writing the history of our country very little with film cameras. This is a rare film, and recently the state has realized this, and it's a pity that it is not with us. Today, the Ministry of Industry and Trade and the Ministry of Culture, but they finally merged, and there is even a separate competition at the Ministry of Culture. For the production of industrial films, it appeared 3 years ago, and gradually films are starting to be made. Someone is now filming about how, with a hammer and sheer determination, we build an airplane. Someone else is filming about how the KOS or IGL factory survives, and so on and so forth. These films are starting to appear, and I want to say, Kostya, once they do, what are we going to do with them?
Well, you and I will watch them at a film festival somewhere.
Yes.
But where will the audience see them? Yes, that's also a big industrial pain point for us. But this situation does not apply only to industrial cinema, but also to documentary films, especially to auteur documentaries, which are now being squeezed out from almost everywhere, out of online cinemas and also out of theatrical distribution. I don't know. And even at festivals, they're still present, but it seems that fewer and fewer people are actually watching them. What?
Ideas.
The only probably current and most effective model for screenings is through university institutions or certain programs that create free selections, like scientific film festivals. I think that probably this particular path might be considered the most effective and efficient way to bring these films to the audience. They will likely appear at many different film festivals, such as Unknown Russia, which, in cooperation with NTV, shows the winning films on a federal television channel. And there, too, there is a chance, one of the very few opportunities, to see these films on a major federal channel. But overall, yes, this is a big problem. And well, here, Igor, something needs to be done. Rather, Von Briggs, we shouldn't blame it, won't be like, just about the industrial side. Well,
Zhenya, great. What do you think we should do with industrial cinema, and do we even need it? As a blogger, journalist, and someone who works in this field, what's your take?
Well, yes, thank you. Since we've been making our own little industrial films for 13 years now, well, I don't even want to call it cinema. It's more like a genre of industrial or production reportage, which was also well forgotten in our Soviet Union. We can see this picture a bit from the inside and observe it in dynamics. And the most important thing I want to say is that, in fact, the audience does want to watch this. If it's complete, modern, beautiful, vibrant, and talented, the audience watches it with pleasure. And on our blog, we get millions of views on some videos because viewers are starved for quality industrial reportage, where you see interesting machinery and the fascinating people who make it all happen. The issue is with the infrastructure. Get it across to them. That's what Konstantin is talking about right now. Yes, there's one thing I can't understand. We have our own national hosting platforms like Rutyuk and Pivokanukli. Why can't they create a separate section there dedicated to post-production cinema, since this has been declared such a major state objective, at least after 2022? let me say this. When we upload our videos over the past 30 years, we've got thousands and thousands of videos, for example, on Rutjuk or VK. When you publish a video, you have to choose the category it belongs to. And there's a list of 20 options. There's food, travel, blog, lifestyle, pranks, industrial categories, world. And we're forced to shove our blogs into some miscellaneous or autovelo category or just anywhere we can. So when we upload them there, we immediately dissolve into this ocean. We're not even categorized in any way. At the very least, we should start by creating an industry category on our platforms so that viewers can easily find this content, at least in free access. And then, little by little, we can start some kind of project, negotiate with these platforms so that they allocate some limits for promotion and views. After all, advertising can also be a good way to monetize if it's done correctly and wisely.
Actually, Dima, I watched it, as I said. In the film, Dima says that, well, everyone has a lot of ideas, but when you actually get into the process of creating, everything changes a lot. If I may, Dima, sometimes I submit things at the very last moment and I can't give the director a chance to speak. So what were you counting on when you were making the film, seriously? How did you plan to get it in front of people's eyes? But as a colleague, I'm asking you.
My main goal as a director is to inspire the viewer. I'm absolutely against it when the audience leaves a film feeling hopeless. This is exactly one of those cases. Yes, that's exactly why I conceived an opening film that motivates. That was the main objective. I searched for a protagonist for a long time, and when I met Dmitry Anyarov, I realized that this was what I needed to film and that it needed to be filmed urgently. I started filming, and then these meetings came up where you and I met for the first time about the need to develop this kind of industrial cinema, that we needed to get involved in it. So the film was already basically in the development stage at that point. It just so happened that the film turned out to be one of the first specifically on this topic, on the industrial theme. As for what to do next, we don't really know yet because I represent the production side, so to speak. I make films and we try to promote them. We set up the venue together with the film company, Two Captains, for which we are very grateful. Here, Anastasia has organized an absolutely incredible event. We were planning a premiere, but instead such a forum has gathered here. It's a real forum and it's very gratifying.
That's all we can do on our part. I'll be watching and observing how people react to the film, how the audience liked it, and who needs it. And then we'll draw conclusions about what to do next. Maybe we'll close this direction and move on to other systems. Or maybe not.
Well, no, let's sleep on it.
No. Dima, look, I have a question for you. How did you decide to do this? The thing is, one of the main problems I have as a documentary filmmaker and in general as a director, and the fact is, we're a country of big capital. All our corporations are so consolidated, and it's practically impossible to get in there. And if you do get in, you realize you run into a PR person who undermines competitors with a successful Instagram, usually with Instagram or something else like that. And they don't want to show the journey at all, right? For them, everything is just fine from the start. In film, especially in documentary film, the worse things are for the protagonist, the better it is for the movie. That's the rule, unfortunately, a dramaturgical one. So how did you decide to go for it? I watched the film and you can really see it there. Something catches fire, something sinks. Something flips over, all sorts of things happen to you. But how did you decide to go for it?
Oh, listen, honestly, we just built up trust. That's all. I just thought, why not? First of all, I was interested in the process itself. I said, Alexey, as long as you don't torture me too much with this. He said, I won't at all. I'll just basically live with you. So I said, all right, let's do it. I was really interested in the technical process itself. I was very surprised. I don't know. The poor sound engineer probably painstakingly pieced together my speeches bit by bit, and it turned out so beautifully. Let's just say, well, it was quite an interesting adventure. I liked it. And
have you already seen the result? Of course. Are you satisfied?
Very.
Did the editing interfere?
No.
Complete freedom. Great. This is the perfect hero. Because you will see that the level of openness in the camera is something I truly rarely observe. Overall, it's really great. Thank you very much. But how much time do we have left? Nastya, 20 minutes, great. My next speech. So when I was coming here, I was actually thinking, well, you say there's nowhere to show it, no categories available, but I'll just write on vContact because I have it there on my page. And, as I was walking, I thought there's a lot of generative video now, it's appeared. But guys, understand that for non-fiction industrial cinema, it's a historic opportunity because generating reality is pointless. No one but us will film it. And our country's history, and our shared history as Homo sapiens. Although this irrepressible feeling that you are Homo sapiens, a person, absolutely irrepressible, right now it itself is prompting you that you need to go into the real sector of the economy and interact with those people who actually do things with their hands, who at the end of the workday don't have an Instagram post but have some object in their hands. That's why I don't have any feelings of panic. On the contrary, I believe that now we're just about to turn things around. A revolution towards reality, because 42 and all those Chinese and other neural networks will soon tire us out, just like 3D movies once did. Next question. Tell me, please, did you shoot according to a script? Or were you just observing? How did you manage to capture so much there? How did you navigate everything there? How much footage did you have? The film is an hour long. How much did you shoot?
Well, I actually filmed for 2 years, and I didn't have any plan at all. I understood that there was a protagonist, I would observe him, and then I would adjust my storytelling as I went along. I started filming the movie in my usual style, using artistic imagery. Then at some point, after watching a bit of it, I realized that probably, after all, my target audience is engineers, and I wanted to bring more clarity and specificity to the film. And that's why, for the third film, I started shooting a bit differently, basically restructuring the whole framework. And so, little by little, the film came together. In fact, without a script, it unfolded exactly the way life itself does.
Look, we're talking about this concept, industrial cinema. But even then, who defines it and how? Because, well, the word exists, but I think the meaning is different for everyone. So let's start with Kostya, with Zhenya. Let's go with Zhenya. Kostya, you're a distributor. Well, tell me, industrial cinema. You are the head, the curator of the industrial laboratory. How do you define this? Well,
what was in a specific industrial laboratory, we still considered it as an author's creative documentary. And it's that was our direction. Undoubtedly, there is feature films which can also have various elements thoughtfully integrated, with some of these elements connected to different working professions. For me, it's really a kind of personal goal setting. I think that here, the films should, within themselves, carry or convey something meaningful and significant. How to put it? Promotion raises the prestige of working professions, raises the prestige of entrepreneurs in Russia, which is generally an issue with the image of entrepreneurs in Russia. Everything is about cinema. Especially, everything is also very bad. This is direct, if not global. Probably, if a film solves this task, then it can be considered industrial.
And you, Lyosha? Industrial cinema, what does it mean to you?
For me, how should I put it? To be honestly, the only thing that truly concerns me and the only thing I really want is, again, I'll repeat, for cinema to truly inspire and move, to achieve something, to accomplish things, to make a real difference. And whether it's industrial or not is basically determined by whether there is a person who actually creates, who actually shapes the space around them, forms something new, movement, takes some innovations. That is, everything that is related to engineering, everything that is related to production. I consider this to be an industrial topic.
Here is Zhenya, everyone.
Can I take one more step forward? A little bit, of course. Look, where did you start in the Soviet Union? We documented everything. We really have a huge archive. We ourselves use it in the 9th days of Taharini because it's really great. Then there was a gap of almost 30 years. Little by little, we're starting to try to get out of this situation. Unfortunately, we lost the culture of producing this kind of film or reportage, it doesn't matter which. And we've also lost the culture of consumption, because it simply didn't exist. And that's why the mass audience isn't used to it. They don't understand how to watch it, how to react to it. They don't understand what it's for, among other things. So we need to approach this issue comprehensively. It's not just about learning to produce and promote it. We also need to understand how to present it, how to showcase it, and gradually accustom the audience to it as well. Because even though there are a lot of young people here, I don't think that consuming in-depth reports or profiles is all that widespread among the youth. We need to gradually build a culture of both consumption and production. Yes, everything will be fine for us.
The decline likely didn't last 30 years. We coasted by inertia for a few more, probably until 2000. After that, things really changed. Michael Jackson came to Red Square, and the archive ends on a good note. Well, I just work with this. It's really necessary. Maybe some of you have questions before the film regarding... No? No, there aren't any.
Actually, I have one, a small one. So, for example, the program Galileo, is that the closest among those kinds of shows? Well, we were just being pushed around, I don't know, with one of the productions. And it was actually really interesting because there like, for example, in the Sahara, people explained diamond tools in a really interesting way. Yes, so that's the most recent program. In my opinion, it was my favorite, which was still around for a while, but then they shut it down. And well,
I think that Naka 2.0 was actually a pretty good channel overall, but then it kind of, let's say...
It's a channel, it's a whole channel, so a person really has to be into that, you know? Honestly, it's a shame it left prime time. Yeah, back in those days, anyone could catch it, kids, adults, anyone could watch it, and then suddenly it just became uninteresting.
Well, look, in the Soviet Union, there really were only 2 TV channels, and that was basically television programming. We live in a different reality now. And besides that, there were these so-called centers, like Centernaukfilm, Kyivnaukfilm, Magnitogorsk, Leningradnaukfilm, and a whole network of film studios in the Soviet Union, where scientists, engineers would meet with filmmakers, and their task was to use film to explain what they were doing with public funds. For the same people, and that's why this whole archive he lost, here is a network of film studios, it is lost. I am the development director of the easternmost film studio in Yekaterinburg. So what happens next? And then there's nothing there. That is, there's just more to it further on. 4 or 5 countries, there is no film studio. State before Mitch will receive Dmitry Palich. Do you know about this cooperation with bloggers and so on? And Sasha Ivanov chemistry is actually simple, which is also... Now, on the Science 20 channel, I think some of the bloggers present here might also do some kind of collaboration. Hereinafter referred to as Osvo Galileo.
Your Galileo? Oh, yes, maybe, but that's actually a rather complicated thing. That's my channel, so it's more like... Well, actually, it's probably a really good idea, but it's all just a bit difficult to organize, honestly. To be honest, sometimes it can be really quite challenging to figure out how to put everything together.
Oh, yes, there's a director.
Money, you need to carefully and responsibly manage the money.
We are about to start making a movie because time is limited, so that afterwards, when you've already watched everything, you can ask questions to the protagonist and the director again. I want to ask you, as the highly respected head of a huge design bureau, to please tell all your friends, colleagues, and acquaintances, don't be afraid of documentary filmmakers. In general, don't be afraid of movies or the process of being filmed, because in fact, if you haven't been filmed, then essentially you haven't existed in the eyes of history. Dmitry has been filmed, so he exists and will continue to exist. You're in for a visual treat, because Alexey Nemov's work as a cinematographer is known throughout the country. But now we'll see what he has accomplished as a director. Enjoy the screening.